Was diagnosed walking to the parking lot. I knew my wife didn't quite understand it fully, and what how life had just changed. It just took a hard right. I watched my parents' alcoholism ruin their lives, and they died when I was very young. And it was pour me a drink. It wasn't going to happen to me, but lo and behold, it did happen to me. I became an alcoholic. She turns and she looks at me and she says, "Dad, you have to tell your story." The divorce rate in America is 50-something percent. Among people who have special needs children, it climbs into the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, so absorb that for a second. The most rewarding things in life for me are watching an alcoholic get sober, or helping a person who just got diagnosed, their son or daughter just got diagnosed, or they need advice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken Beautiful Me, where we gather in our sacred space for honest conversations and soul deep healing. I'm Kelly Buckley, your host, and each and every story we share and honor is a gentle reminder that we are in our brokenness, we are beautifully becoming through hope, gratitude, and resilience. Today, I am so fortunate to have as a guest John Beyer. He is an author of Live a Little Better, founder and CEO of Men on the Move, Autism. He's an autism advocate and a singer-songwriter. He shares his remarkable journey from a chaotic home marked by addiction and neglect to build a thriving moving and storage business on the East Coast. In this gripping memoir, Live a Little Better, one man's journey of survival, sobriety, and success. He was born to addicted parents whose abuse drove his older sisters out of the home while he was still young. Beyer became an angry teenager plagued by binge drinking, criminal activity, and emotional instability. After years of self-destruction, a near-fatal car crash, and the deaths of close friends and family, Beyer hit rock bottom. A months-long bender in 1986 led him to seek help from Alcoholics Anonymous, marking the beginning of his sobriety journey. With the support of his longtime partner, Amy, and a dedicated therapist, he began rebuilding his life, eventually founding Men on the Move and transforming his setbacks into a successful career. Sobriety bought Beyer not only business success, but also the strength to face new challenges at home. When his son Gregory was diagnosed with autism, he and Amy committed themselves to Gregory's care and became advocates for autism awareness and support, helping launch organizations and community programs. Their journey as parents deepened their resilience and redefined what it means to succeed. Through personal tragedy, health crisis, and daily struggles of parenting and recovery, Beyer's story is one of perseverance and transformation. Live a Little Better is a candid, inspiring memoir that speaks to anyone who has faced addiction, family dysfunction, or life-altering adversity, and proves that you can come through it stronger with purpose and hope. John, it is my absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well. That bio is just so incredibly powerful, what you have endured in your life and how you have turned it into a beautiful example of resilience and rising from kind of the ashes of trauma. So tell me a little bit in your own words about this journey. And so what really then inspired you to write Live a Little Better?
Well, Live a Little Better is absolutely a product of gratitude. It is. It's anybody who knows me knows I talk about recovery from alcoholism, and recovery from other things too. Not that I'm in other 12-step programs, but one of the things that the general public usually doesn't get or know is that all the other anonymous programs, Gamblers Anonymous, Sexaholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Marijuana Anonymous, cocaine, narcotics, Anonymous. The 12 steps of those programs are all derived from the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And AA and those 12 steps have helped millions of people. They have saved countless lives. And that, the dichotomy there, the thing about the Anonymous program and the steps, and it's supposed to be, a program of attraction, and we don't advertise it. Yet I want to shout it from the rooftop that these 12 steps and this program is saving millions of lives, because what it's done for me, the 12 step is to carry these principles in all of our affairs. That's the end of the 12 step, the second half of it. And it that's what I've managed to do over the years. I came into this program broken. I was mentally, physically, broken. I had nothing spiritually. At the age of 26, I was very lucky. That's not where my story begins. And Live a Little Better, the cover of the book, has a photograph on it of Lefrak City on Long Island. It's on the Long Island Expressway, this development. I moved in there. That's how I started the book. Moving date was April 20th, 1968. Of course, I started with moving because that's the business I wound up getting into. And when we moved into there, those were when my memories really started being very clear, and we had fallen from grace. It was a middle-class place, but we lived in a nicer place but prior to that. And my parents, bona fide alcoholics. They wound up divorcing as a matter of course. And we overnight went from being upper middle class to having eviction notices and child protective services knocking on the door, and eviction notices on the door every day. And we were in a poverty. I couldn't eat. We really didn't have any food. I talk about how I created my first job and how my relationship with money began. That's important, actually. And that was a very, writing that is cathartic, and you learn things about yourself. That was a really profound moment when I went to cross the street at 11 years old or so. And I started putting people's groceries, helping the older people and the women who had babies, putting their groceries in the trunk for them. And they would give me a quarter. And I corralled up all the carts, and I swept the parking lot because there was a broom there. And I would corral the carts so the cars can get in and out faster. So this guy comes at me, this manager comes at me later on in the day, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just trying to help out here to make some tips." And he gave me $2. I'll never forget that. And I created my first job.
Yeah.
And I always watched my parents' alcoholism ruin their lives, and they died when I was very young. I was 21. My dad died. He died directly due to this disease. And my mother at 24, I was 24 when she died. She had lung cancer. And it was pour me a drink. It wasn't going to happen to me, but lo and behold, it did happen to me. I became an alcoholic. But unfortunately, I went for help on March 31st, 1986. I walked into my first AA meeting and haven't had a drink since.
Congratulations on that. What a huge accomplishment. It's because it is, like you said, Alcoholics Anonymous has saved countless lives. I love what you said, what you're saying about being in the grocery store kind of parking lot. And even from that age, from that very tender age of 11, you were solution focused.
It was survival focus.
Right? But a lot of people in that situation at that age would not be able to see a path where, okay, I'm going to find something that's going to work out for me because I see where we are. And, you probably didn't have that complex conversation, but you were solution focused even at that tender age talking. So that strength that you had that was just sitting there waiting for you to channel it.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day. It was very empowering. I remember I went, I got a slice of pizza and a soda, and it was like, wow, I just, I just made money.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
So, you grow up, you make that decision to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. So, when you said, okay, because and I'm so fascinated by this with people who write books, and I've written a couple of books myself. What what was the motivation or inspiration where you said, okay, I'm going to share this story. I'm putting it out there.
It wasn't me. My daughter, I have two children. I have a 35-year-old daughter named Lauren. She's a social worker and a mom and an artist. And my son is 33 years old, Gregory. He has autism, but he has a job. Very grateful for that. And my daughter, I had read another book, and I was talking about this book and how I identified with the character growing up in this bar, or um, uh, and people ask me all the time, "Where'd you grow up?" And I tell them, "I'll let you know when I'm done."
I love that.
And yeah, so I'm telling about how this guy's story, and it was a true story. It was a memoir, and it's from my neighborhood on Long Island, and he's there telling this story about betting slips because my father became a bookie, and after running this huge corporation, he got reduced to being the local bookmaker and loan shark there, and he, like I said, he drank himself to death at the age of 56,
Mm.
and um, I'm telling her how I identify with this, and I was so excited about it, and she turns and she looks at me and she says, "Dad, you have to tell your story," and she badgered me, beat the crap out of me for weeks about this. I mean, she wouldn't let it go. And finally, I just Googled ghostwriters because I have ADD and I never would have been able to accomplish this without help. And I wound up hiring the notable writer, Glenn Plaskin, who's written many memoirs for people to help me do this. And that's how it came out. My daughter made me do it. My daughter's
Oh,
inspired me a lot. She did this, and then I write about my music at the end of the book, and my daughter made me that she inspired all that also. I'll talk about that.
oh, it sounds like she's proud of her papa.
Yes, yeah, I'm proud of her.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I love hearing the backstory and the fact that your daughter, so your story has impacted her in ways you probably couldn't even imagine. And she was so encouraging to you. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was great.
Um, so you talked briefly about kind of what it was like to grow up in a home that is impacted by addiction. What were some of the other challenges that you faced as a child that you feel maybe led you into the, using alcohol to kind of numb the pain?
I mean, my dad lived 7 miles away after they separated, and over this 5-year period, I saw him, I don't know, about a dozen times. And there were countless times where he was supposed to show up. I recount this one story where he was supposed to take me to a Yankee game, and I'm downstairs in the lobby waiting for him, and he's not there. And of course, there were no cell phones then. And I buzz on this lousy intercom system to my mom. Did Dad call? Yeah, he said he was going to be late. Um, And then eventually I'm buzzing again, and I can hear her getting drunk every time I buzz. 20 minutes, a half hour. I waited for 2 hours, and he was a no-show. And I recounted that story because that one really stuck out in my mind. And situations like that, just they carve a hole in your soul. They do break you, they wound you. And I just, I wound up having to take life. I wound up having 3 jobs at the age of 13, 14, um, and making almost $100 a week back in 1974.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember having to. we would flip baseball cards, my buddies and I, and they would throw away the extras or the doubles, and I remember sneaking those off to the side because I had holes in my sneakers, and I put them in the bottom of my sneakers, and I was embarrassed. I didn't want them to see that I was doing that. Those are the types of things that I grew up with, and one slice of cheese in the refrigerator that was starting to get brown on the edges. Yeah, I wanted to get away from that and control my own destiny. And my mother, she loved music. My mother loved music. Melancholy drunk, over and over, some depressing stuff, but great stuff too. She sang. She didn't sing. But she played Sinatra and Andy Williams, and she would make me sing at 8, 10, 11 years old. She was making me sing all the time to this music, and that stayed with me. I got into the High School of Music and Art in New York City, which is not easy. I wound up not going for a while. Nobody was giving me direction, and I didn't go. I went for just a few months, and then I switched schools. And I barely graduated high school, even though at one point I was supposed to skip. But life was so crazy as a child, there was no governance, there was no management. It was a free for all. I could stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Two older sisters, they had moved out. They had to do their own thing to survive the insanity too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they moved out into the city, and I'm very close with them today. But we survived, and here we are. Here we are. And when my son got diagnosed, the day I came home from my first meeting, I like to say this. I felt so relieved to know that there were a piece of society that actually didn't drink. I
Yeah.
did not know. I grew up in an incredibly alcoholic environment. My mother, by the way, got me a job tending bar in her bar that she drank in Flushing, Queens, and my dad got me a job uh, bartending in his bar in Jamaica, Queens, at the age of 18. Back then, you could serve at 18. You can't. You have to be 21 now. But yeah, crazy. Just even my mother. I don't even know if I was 18 when I stepped behind the bar in Flushing, my mom's place. Um, those are the bars they drank in. They didn't own them. But yeah, the day I came home from my first AA meeting, I knew I was in the right place, and I got it and felt so comfortable right away. It almost seems surreal to some people when I say this, but before the door closed behind me, I said to Amy, our whole lives are going to change.
Oh.
And they did. It did. I feel very lucky about that. Feel very lucky about that. And when my son got diagnosed, a good friend of ours said something. His name is Richie Kianowski, said Gregory's not responding the way he was. He was just after 2 years old. We thought maybe he was hard of hearing or something. Actually, I was hoping he was hard of hearing, because hard of hearing you can deal with. And when he passed the hearing test, I was upset. My wife didn't understand that because I knew it was something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
He was diagnosed walking to the parking lot. I knew my wife didn't quite understand it fully, and what how life had just changed. It just took a hard right.
Yeah.
And uh, I said to myself, John, this is going to cost a lot of money. He's going to need a lot of help. I had this conversation from the building to the car after they had said that we see autism here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we we've been working very hard for him and for others since the days of his diagnosis. Um, you
Yeah.
know, we never looked at it as that we were just doing it for our son. Anything we did, we knew could possibly benefit other people as well.
So, talk to me a little bit about being an advocate for autism and what groups that you participate in, and how does that help the autism community?
Well, I was the I my wife and I were founding board members of a local autism support place called the David Center,
Mm-hmm.
and that eventually, after years of I was the leader of the fathers group there, which was extremely rewarding. Um, and I was asked to be the president of the first chapter for Long Island Autism Speaks. They no longer have chapters anymore at Autism Speaks, but we were very involved. And my company, Men on the Move, has always facilitated the walks. They do the fundraising walks, and we always warehouse the stuff that that for the walks, and we schlep it. We bring it down to Jones Beach, and they have 20,000 walkers. People walking for the cause there. So we're very involved in that level. But moreover, my wife, and many other things, and my wife joined the school board, and my wife made big things happen there.
Mm.
Um, Namely a life skills program for my son, and that life skills program still exists today. And he's out of high school, many years, well, 10, 12 years now. He left when he was 21, because you can stay till you're 21 when you have special needs. And yeah, and they take people out into the community, food shopping and mailing a letter and to the bank and teaching them life skills. That's among many things that were accomplished.
That is so wonderful.
And
Um,
I put the Autism Speaks logo on some of my trucks, very big. I worked for months on that artwork. It's beautiful, actually, and to raise awareness.
yeah. And you said 20,000 people showed up to walk. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so nice to see when a community really comes together and supports a cause that is so important. That's lovely. How old is your son Gregory now? You said at the
33,
beginning.
33 years old. He's going to be 34.
34. Wow. Hey guys, Kelly here. I wanted to jump in and let you know that you can find out more about my work by visiting my website at kellybuckley.com, or you can find my books on Amazon. Okay, back to the episode. And so many of these things that you did when you were navigating this yourself, and I mean, again, I see solution focuses throughout the thread of your life, right? So you walk out after this diagnosis that would really stop most people in their tracks, and you are thinking already about, okay, so what solutions can we find? It sounds like you and Amy are just two powerhouse people that find a way through. That's beautiful.
We've been described that way before.
I'm, I'm not surprised. So talk to me now a little bit about your company, Men on the Move. And kind of, you talked about how you really have integrated support for autism awareness into that. But how did that company shape your recovery and your personal transformation?
I talk about how I got in the book, Live a Little Better. I talk about how I got into the moving business. And I think Men on the Move is the largest first generation independently owned moving company on Long Island. So we have made our mark here. Um, and I drank my way into it, actually. I was still drinking when I started it. There was a guy in the bar next to me, and his name is John. He's in the book. His name is John Darko. He's one of my best friends, absolutely. And he said to me, I need a guy to help me on the moving truck tomorrow. Do you want to do it? And I was between jobs because I was screwing up left and right. And and I said, sure. And he got me started. And then I got sober right after, actually, that I went into, because I got bad. And uh, I'm going to say something to you that, it's kind of, it's kind of gross. But in the end of my drinking, I got so bad that I sat on the edge of the bed sometimes, not thinking that it was a toilet bowl.
Hmm.
And the day I went into the program, the day I went to my first meeting, I came to, the sky was a medium blue. I looked out, peered behind the blackout curtains, and the clock said 6 o'clock, and I did not know if it was AM or PM. Can you imagine that, Kelly? Not
Mm,
knowing if it's AM or PM, looking at the clock. I was
yeah.
only 26, and that's how bad I had gotten in this period of time. So yeah, I'm grateful for AA, and that's the book that is written out of gratitude. So yeah, my son, my moving company took on a life. I worked like a maniac. I wanted, at first I just wanted to catch up to my friends who were doing so well,
Hmm.
and I caught up to them, and I put my name on the side of the truck, the name of the company, Men on the Move, on the side of the truck, as big as it would fit. And oh yeah, it was also good advertising. There's a lot of ego behind that too. And it was like, hey, look at me, I'm getting my life together here, in a way. And that worked actually. That was an advantage. And now it's more about legacy than anything. I got to tell this story. My daughter, my son would go to a camp upstate, Camp Huntington, every year, and he wound up having this camp counselor, this fellow named Patrick, who came over on the Camp America program. He was from Wales, and good-looking kid, and he spoke the Queen's English with the beautiful British accent. And every time we'd come back or we'd speak to him, my wife would say to my daughter, "Oh, Lauren, you have to meet this Patrick. He's really good-looking." And I would go like this, yeah, stop, enough, you know. And well, one day Patrick's on Long Island, and he's at a local pub having a pint, and my daughter takes my son to lunch at that place, and he sees Gregory walk across the restaurant because he knows Gregory very well, and being the counselor for years, so he knew about Laura, and he had seen pictures of her. And Greg goes to the bathroom, and Patrick walks over to the table and says, "You must be Lauren Beyer." And she looks at him and says, "You must be Patrick." And the rest, as they say, is history. And they got married, and that's
Oh,
my granddaughter,
oh my gosh. Oh my
who's
God.
turning
He's
4.
so cute.
Yes. So Patrick wound up starting a company um, with 2 other parents called Spectrum Designs, and Spectrum Designs employs adults with autism. So they make T-shirts and hats and embroidery, and they do it at a big level now. They're doing great.
Wow.
My son-in-law's been nationally recognized. He's been to Google headquarters and Microsoft headquarters. He's something else. So my son works for my son-in-law, and I sit on the board, and my wife sits on the board of the sister organization of Spectrum Designs too, the Nicholas Center. So it's it's an amazing story, and yeah, we're still plugging away at the autism community and trying to do everything we can. To this day, my wife and I, the most rewarding things in life ever. Well, I loved watching my daughter play soccer competitively. She was an outstanding soccer player. I would share with you that those are some of my best memories as ever in my life, is watching her play because she enjoyed it so much. The most rewarding things in life for me are watching an alcoholic get sober,
Hmm.
or helping a person who just got diagnosed, their son or daughter just got diagnosed, or they need advice. And it's a continuation of that 12th step that I talk about in AA. You carry these principles in all of our affairs where you want to help somebody else who's less fortunate than you, or when you're in a position where you can help somebody. And that's the best. So now at this stage, we talk about, residents and, how to set up your kid for getting into residence. So we get a phone call once a week. One of us gets a phone call once a week asking for this, and it's great.
I mean, I just I'm really humbled by how you and Amy have really taken, the pain that arises with a diagnosis you didn't expect, or the trauma and pain that you take from your childhood and alcoholism, and you've turned the pain into purpose, and to this day it continues to kind of ripple out. It's incredible. I mean, I'm sure that you don't know how many people you've helped over the years. And there's probably people who walk around and have been impacted by your work, and you'll never know who they were.
I don't know how much time we have, but I'm going to tell you a story that came back to me that it's a miracle that it came back to me. We were asked to do a TV interview for NBC for Autism Speaks because we were active and people knew us, and it was supposed to be the strain and stress on marriage was the focus of the piece.
Okay.
And we were willing to do that, very much willing to do that. The divorce rate in America is 50 something percent. Among people who have special needs children, it climbs into the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So absorb that for a second, right?
Mhm.
So we were asked to do this piece. And at first we didn't want to do it. And eventually we wound up doing it. And we did the piece. We had no idea it was going to be on national TV. We thought it was just going to be local TV. We wound up getting phone calls from family members all over the country. But weeks later, I get a phone call from my barber's niece or something. And she's telling me she's looking for advice. And she's telling me, and I'm asking about what does a husband do, and he's a mason and kind of old school. She's telling me, and she starts telling me the story about how she saw this piece on TV a few weeks before, where the husband looked at the camera and said, "From the day my son was diagnosed, we embraced the diagnosis and addressed it head on." And
Mhm.
that the husband broke down and crawled into a ball and started sobbing. She had no idea she was talking about me
Oh my
when
God.
she called me. What are the odds?
I mean, I don't know. That's amazing.
That's positive reinforcement to keep doing it, right?
That's your little message. Yeah, the little whisper that you get that you just have to keep going. Um, that's incredible. And I just feel like I need to say thank you. I have several friends and we have family who um, have children who are somewhere on the spectrum, and the work that you do is just so incredibly important. Um, to celebrate the gifts of those children, I think is incredibly important.
There's a poem in the book called Have You Ever Been to Holland? Um, and it talks about how you plan a trip to Italy all your life. And you can't wait to go, and you've saved up for it, and you've packed, and you thought about it, and you read all the books, and blah blah blah, and you're excited about it, and you get on the plane, and you can't wait to see all the sights of Italy, and you get off the plane, and you're in Holland,
Mm,
and it's very different. It's not what you expect,
yeah.
but Holland is beautiful too, and it's a metaphor for what it's like having a child with special needs.
Mm, that's beautiful. It touches me deeply, just as a bereaved parent. That touches me deeply because as a family, my entire family, when we lost my son, we had to find the beauty that remained. Um, it wasn't, and you always envision what your life is going to be like as a parent. So I'm going to have to look that poem up in your book for sure when it comes out. Um, what do you hope that the readers of your book take away from your story?
That to inspire them to keep plugging along. My story is not particularly unique, and I've had my share of adversity, and that doesn't mean that there aren't people whose lives are much tougher than mine has been. They're different, but there are solutions, and you can work through them, and it makes you richer and stronger. And resiliency builds resiliency, and helping others, keeping the focus off yourself, is the most rewarding thing that I think any of us can do in the end.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I mean, I've been feeling this way for 10, 20 years now. I didn't feel this way immediately, but that's the way I've been feeling for the last 20 years or so. And it's kind of like a camera slowly coming into focus, the lens finally slowly coming into focus. you know.
That's a great way to describe it. Um, the wisdom that we get as we get older and kind of can reflect back on the journey and think about legacy, as parents, as grandparents.
So speaking of that, I mentioned the music, and music was a refuge for me. My mom used to make me sing, and I would go out on the terrace and hide from the insanity when I lived in Left Rock City as a child, and just drown it out playing music. And I'd have to press two buttons on my little Panasonic recorder to try to record songs I wanted to hear. People have no idea. Young people have no idea how easy they have it today, and trying to press down and hit a Stevie Wonder song from
Oh, I
1975.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So music was a refuge for me, and I've always sung. And I wound up writing my daughter's the song that we danced to, and I recorded it a week before her wedding, and we danced to that song uh, at her wedding, and it was a great moment. And so I had written my first song then, and I've been writing music since. I have a collaborator. His name is Benjamin Hay. We have a couple million streams on Spotify and across all the platforms with our little library of music there. Yeah. And there's a song called Love You More. One song is called Powerless. That one has
Mhm.
the most streams, and that's obviously about addiction.
Yeah.
That one I wrote, and Ben, we always collaborate both our songs together. He may take the lead on one, I'll take the lead on another, but we always help each other out with each other's recordings. And the other song that's gained a lot of traction recently, and the best part is when you mentioned the word legacy. That's when we think of it. The song's called "Love You More,"
Okay.
and um, "Love You More" is this. My daughter whispers at the beginning of the song, "I love you," and I talk back and I say, "No, my dear, let me make it clear, I love you more." And it goes into this pop song, this just cute pop syrupy song that my granddaughter, my 4-year-old granddaughter, knows from beginning to end.
Oh,
And she walks across the room singing, "I love you more than," and that's legacy, and that feels wonderful.
you
And I
must just
urge you
melt when she walks across the room.
to do that.
Now, does she have you wrapped around her finger? Your little
1,000%.
I'm not surprised. She's a cute cutie patootie, that picture. Oh my goodness. Um, so on your travels and you have a successful business, you do all of this wonderful advocate work. Um, throughout your journey, when you have come into contact with people who are struggling with addiction, they're going through something with adversity. Um, how do you approach that? Like, do you wait for them to kind of say, I'm ready? Do you ever approach people and say, let's have a cup of coffee and talk? If you meet people who you can see the signs.
I'll use certain vernacular that's inherent to the program. The first step of any 12-step program, but of AA in particular, is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol.
Hmm.
So powerless is a key word. And our lives had become unmanageable. Unmanageable is another key word. Unmanageable was a kind word for the state of affairs my life was in at the time, and so they'll be telling me their troubles and woes, and I'll say, "So life's unmanageable. Why do you think life is unmanageable?" And I'll start using and weaving that language in there, so that when they do, or if ever do, go to a meeting, they'll see that up there and they'll identify with it more squarely.
Hmm.
Um, People also know that I'm an open book. And if you're coming and talking with me, employees or anybody else who knows me, um, it's because you already know you have a problem on some level.
Yes.
Um, and you're in your own little way, you're starting to seek that out, and you're seeking out help. And I tell them, I don't talk about them. I let them talk about them, but I'll talk about me. And I go back, and I'll say, when I first stopped drinking, I felt like it was going to be something was being taken away from me, and that I couldn't believe that I was, thinking of not drinking. Like, how could I? Why do I have to do that? And then I realized that, when I gave up drinking, I got everything else in life. And these
Mm.
people know usually that I've accomplished a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're going, huh? It worked for this guy, huh? You know. So say that we call that being a power of example. And you share your experience and your strength and your hope. And I'm always talking about, I'm 65 now, and I don't want to reflect or do too much talking about what I've done and I've accomplished. I want to, and the book ends about where I'm going forward in music and writing a play about. Um, it's called We. I'm writing a play called We about all the 12-step programs, and it's a musical. And my collaborator and I have written 20 some odd songs for it already. And this is my way of wanting to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's about all the different addictions and how the 12 steps have helped them. So I want to continue talking about the things going forward, not so much talking about things to reflect on. But I'll talk about what it was like for me when I first came in and the
Right.
challenges that I had. Yeah.
Yeah. So you meet them where they are. Did you ever think that you were going to be a musician like that, writing up? That sounds so exciting. And did you say
No,
you have 20
I'm
songs
I'm
written?
really, I'm not really not very qualified. I don't write music per se, and I actually don't play an instrument. I have very, very rudimentary piano skills. Like I know the notes on the keyboard, but I'm not fluid with them at all. I know some chords, but I can hear music and I hear melody and I can write lyrics. So I have my collaborator who's more than rudimentary on the keyboard. He will fill in chords and stuff, and we'll play around with that and make things happen and put them into context.
Hmm. And this play, and you said that you're calling it We. I mean, I feel like, don't you? The more that you can present this information um, in different ways, in different avenues, different genres, it's more than you are presenting possibility that is outside of a meeting that somebody may not be ready to go to. I think that's fantastic.
There won't be anybody in any audience ever that doesn't have an alcoholic, a drug addict, an overeater, a sexaholic, a gambler that doesn't have one of those addicts in their lives.
That's
And so
true.
this will be for everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. When do you expect that to be completed?
Oh, don't do that to me. 2 years from now, I can write the lyrics. I have the whole outline. I have characters. I have the storyline written, but I've hit a wall with dialogue, and I'm trying to find the right person to help me do the dialogue, and then we have to get it produced. And you have to do it like in small theaters and play around with it, and then bring it to off Broadway. So
Yeah.
that's a long road still ahead of us.
But an exciting adventure. Wow. I mean, a lot of people would dream to be able to do such a thing. So that's exciting stuff.
So
Um,
taking it full circle, I'm very grateful to be doing that now.
yes, I bet you are. I actually that's a great segue. So I talk a lot about gratitude with the people that I work with, which is primarily the bereaved. What place did gratitude? What role did gratitude play for you in your life?
Well, my my putting down the drink was really it was so profound because I had really gotten really that bad in my mid-20s, you know, um, that I my sober history, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years was so remarkably better than what my life had been. The gratitude was building overnight.
Yeah.
Um, for I was in debt $20,000 back in 1986. That's a hell of a lot of money
Yeah.
uh, at the age of 26, and I cleared that up. And my wife and I got engaged and went through our own wedding, and then we went to Hawaii on our honeymoon a year and a half later. I
That's
mean,
amazing.
that's less than 2 years later. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
the gratitude was building, and I felt like I had control over my life. I could make decisions and create my own life. I
Mm.
could be and do and have anything I want, as long as I just didn't drink.
That's, oh, oh, from your lips to all the listeners' ears, I hope they hear that message that they can have it all. They just have to decide. I think that's so incredible.
So each day, one day at a time, you can live a little better.
You can live a little better. Yes. John, before we go, can you tell people, all our listeners, when your book is coming out and how they can find you and your work, including the work that you do for autism awareness as well? Please share all of it, and we'll have it in the show notes when we
Sure.
post the episode.
The organization my wife and I are most heavily involved in today are the Nicholas Center and SpectrumDesigns.org.
Okay,
SpectrumDesigns.org manufactures and uh, creates all kinds of apparel for companies who want names embroidery or their company name on it. It could be a local gym or bakery, but they're doing work for Northwell hospitals and, like I said, Google and Amazon and everybody. They're in Port Washington, New York, and Pleasantville, New York. They have 2 locations now, and so Spectrum Designs is a major focus of what we do today. Um, Men on the Move is a moving company on Long Island, menonthemove.com. John Beyer Music has my book for sale. If you can see my music at John Beyer Music, you can see some fun, campy videos of the music that we've created too, of the music. And then the book is for sale on the website too. And of course, the book can be ordered now. You'd get it September 2nd or 3rd or something like that. But you can order the book now on Amazon or SimonandSchuster.com or Barnes and Noble.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We will have, and one question on Spectrum Design. So they do they do designs for companies nationally then?
Yes,
Excellent.
do it all.
All
They
right.
ship all over the place. Yeah.
You guys out there, if you need something, you need to think about this wonderful company.
You're
Um,
employing adults with autism. It's a wonderful thing.
that is a wonderful thing. John, it has been such a pleasure to get to know you and just to have this chat. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great.
All right. Okay, you guys, thanks for being here, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining me today on Broken Beautiful Me. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and insightful. Remember, every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to heal. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to me, and it helps spread the message of hope and resilience to more people like us. Don't forget to leave a review and share this podcast with your friends and family. Together, we can create a community of strength and beauty in our brokenness. Until next time, stay strong, stay beautiful, and keep shining.